Well, good morning. Good morning. I think now I'm competing with the fruit. Fruit 1, Arthur 0. Welcome to the most exciting day of my life. No, I love this breakfast. It may be dreary outside, but the sun is really shining in here. So give yourselves a hand. I am Arthur Gregg. I am the Assistant Vice President for Multicultural Affairs and the Director of the Multicultural Center. And we're excited that you're here this morning. You all look amazing. You have outdone the fruit and the juice. And we are glad to see each and every one of you. I hope you are ready for an awesome program. You ready? Yes? Okay, great. We're really excited that this is our 20th MLK celebration breakfast. 20 years. That deserves just a round of applause. Of course, I was about 5 when it started. I was about 5, maybe 6. I was 5 and a half when we started the breakfast. And so to see how it has grown, how it has just turned into this awesome celebration where we're all together here on campus. And so we are excited for our 20th celebration. And we would ask that you help us celebrate by putting your phones on silent or vibrate. I love it. Everybody's just kind of like, did I turn my phone off? Where's my phone? If you would please place your phones on silent or vibrate, we would greatly appreciate it. So we are going to begin with a great welcome. I was just talking to Rafael earlier this morning before we started, and I told him he is the best orange tie that I've seen, and I have tie envy this morning. And so without further ado, Rafael Martin, would you please welcome us?
Good morning. I'm Rafael Martin. I'm the Vice President and Chief of Staff here at UT Dallas. And on behalf of our President, Dr. Richard Benson, I'm honored to welcome our faculty, staff, students, and guests to this celebration of one of our nation's most revered leaders, Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Our country's Declaration of Independence contains these inspiring words. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. When these words were written, these truths were far from self-evident. All people were not equal. As we grew as a country, so did the promise of these words. But nearly 200 years later, Dr. King held a mirror up to our country and said, "We are not there yet." As he succinctly and profoundly stated in his "I've Been to the Mountaintop" speech, all we say to America is, be true to what you said on paper. The courage of Dr. King, Ella Baker, Medgar Evers, Eleanor Holmes Norton, John Lewis, and the many others who led the civil rights movement, and the thousands upon thousands who followed their example and protested injustice and inequality in our society at great personal risk, is awe-inspiring. The change they effected through their actions and their sacrifice made our country, our society, more just and more equitable, a better and stronger place, a place closer to the self-evident truths of our founders. But change is not unidirectional. What rises may also fall. What progresses may also retreat. We all must guard the hard-won victories and advances we have made together. Be vigilant against the forces that seek to divide us and take us back to a place from which we have evolved. This is our duty to Dr. King, and the many others who sacrificed so much to make us better. This is our duty as an institution of higher education to ensure that the lessons of the past are not forgotten. This is our duty to one another if we truly believe, as did Dr. King, in the promise of our founding documents. So, to our guests, I say thank you for joining our community here on this day of remembrance and celebration. To our faculty and staff, I ask that you take time today to reflect on Dr. King's example as a leader and an educator, and on your role in fulfilling the mission of this university to advance knowledge and educate future generations. And to our students, I ask that you reflect on Dr. King's example as an activist and a truth teller. I ask that you keep us honest. Do not be afraid to hold up a mirror to our society, point out its flaws, and work to create solutions. Change is hard. Old people like me don't like it. But it is the only way that we make progress together. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the program.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Amazing. Now we will hear from, as I always tell you every year, we are talented in so many ways here on this campus. And so I would like to welcome to the podium now a dear friend and awesome coworker. If you've never heard this young man sing, you have not lived. So you can say after today that you have lived. Matt Windsor-Johns from the Galerstein Gender Center is going to lead us in our invocation.
No pressure at all. If you know the words, you can sing it with me. I won't be mad. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, we have already come. 'Twas grace that brought us safe this far, and grace will lead us home, and grace will lead us home. Thank you.
See, I told you. Now, he will not be selling mixtapes in the foyer. You would have to email him or text him for his mixtape. Yes, so it's breakfast time. Let me see the hands of those. It's your first time here. It's your first time at the breakfast. All right, so awesome. Thank you so much. So all of you who've been here before, you know the deal. You know how we do as family here. So be sure when you see them in line, you kind of help them through. And for those of you who it's your first time, the breakfast items are printed on your program. So that means you don't have to guess what's in line and try to figure it out. It's already listed for you. And so we're going to have our these two front tables, or actually these three tables, are going to lead us out. And then we will be guided out by none other than our awesome staff folk from Chartwell's. who made this awesome breakfast. And so they're going to come up once we get the tables out, and they will guide us. They'll dismiss by tables. So if we can have the first 3 tables here, and as you're leaving, there are two buffet lines. It's 2-sided. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. It's the same thing on both lines. You totally will not miss something from another line. You get the same thing. So we are going to play a little music, and once they get out, then we'll start dismissing by table. Everybody having a good time so far? Everybody okay? Fruits good? Thank you. Well, I can tell by the conversation that the breakfast is awesome, and that those who are around you are awesome, because I just kind of had an opportunity to walk through and hear some of the conversations, and so I'm so glad you're enjoying yourself. You're enjoying the breakfast. We're going to move forward with the program, and at this time, I am going to introduce another one of our awesome student leaders, Brianna Tully, who is going to introduce our artist. Brianna.
Good morning. Amos, also known as ShySpeaks, is an American hip-hop and spoken word artist, singer, speaker, songwriter, and budding actress. With her soulful voice, thoughtful lyrics, and irrepressible confidence, Shy is winning fans from San Francisco to the UK and nations in between. She is hailed as having one of the rarest, most interchangeable voices of her generation. Her rhymes are brilliant, spiritual, and introspective. A 2011 alum, Shy received a master's degree in supply chain management here at UT Dallas. She has received several awards for her inspirational commitment to her musical craft, talent, and community, while setting an outstanding example as a young, gifted, and talented woman in the music and business industries, including being the recipient for the 2012 and 13 Spoken Word Artist of the Year from Dallas's leading gospel radio station. When she is not in the studio recording, writing, or performing live, she is at the helm of our nation's most plaguing political and socioeconomic issues as an advocate for literacy with Lyft. ShySpeaks highlights the ingredients of her success to her faith in God, hard work, family, and dedication. Ladies and gentlemen, ShySpeaks.
Hidden heroes. I searched the dictionary for a definition of the term hero. A legendary figure endowed with great ability, admirable achievements, character, and nobility, and that was the description. Which made me realize there should be zero that ever go unmentioned. Like, why is there even a such thing as a hidden hero? And who would want to keep a legend a secret? It seems like the real revolutionaries were not televised. So, dear TV, I have no desire to be a slave. So as I flip through the figurative channels of your Black history, Morgan should not be the only free man I see. Show me Absalom Jones. He was a doctor, an orator, who was known for using the anti-slavery sermons made most popular by the late Dr. King Jr. He was a man who worked day and night. And he wasn't just trying to chase a dollar, but to make change with his life. Like, while he was still a slave, he purchased his wife's freedom so that she and his unborn kids could be free, man. That's cool. How he purchased his own freedom too. And then he went on to found a society that was critical in caring for the sick and the dying when there was no vaccine and everyone of caliber was fleeing. He chose to stay. And as an ordained minister, not only did he pray, but he acted as a nurse to over 30,000 Philadelphians during the epidemic of yellow fever. Now, in urban terms, that's hot. So I don't understand how you've never heard of this man or this woman, Miss Maggie L. Walker. Not to be confused with Madam CJ. Now let's get this straight. she did get us straight with the invention of the perm. But that's another topic for another time, so for now, I'll just let that burn and try to reveal a shero whose story is much more concealed, but whose life was quite impressive. She was a mother, a teacher, and a businesswoman whose thoughts were quite progressive. Did you know that the first female to ever charter and be president of a bank was African American? She saw that few, if any, of her people could get loans from institutions that were white-owned. I believe she looked right at their racism and said, right on. And then she convinced her community to come together with their coins that would be joined together and lent out via the St. Luke Penny Savings Trust. They started out with just $9,400. But 10 years later, they had collected over $300,000 in assets. Now, how is that for a come up? And still headquartered in Richmond, VA today, at $76.2 million in assets, the Consolidated Bank of Trust still stands today. Yes, today. But we know that greatness did not stop yesterday, which brings me to the present time, and I'd say that Condoleezza Rice has picked right up where Maggie has left off, being the first female minority provost at Stanford University. She was given a responsibility of balancing their budget. She took it from a deficit of 20 million to a surplus of 14.5. Now, I've been made aware that some blacks have a disconnect with Condi because of the administration she serves. You know, she's not a Democrat. Well, let's unveil her light. She's a political tenure professor, and I'd like to ask, when was the last time you were the Secretary of State? Don't worry, I could wait. So whether Republican or Democrat, this woman is a diplomat, and she's a believer who's very vocal about how her faith affects her decision makings. And that's all that matters in the end. But let's jump back to the men. And if you ask me, Hill Harper is a hero of sorts. Though most known for his television, acting, and his looks, he's most notable for his books. Did you know that as of 2011, Hill Harper had written 4 books directly to the African American community, reminding us that we could have a spirit of unity simply through reading? And I know you're saying, I know him. He's not obscure or hidden. Okay, let's do this. Have you ever heard of Dahadi Lewis? He originally went to UNT College on a football scholarship, but his passion for ministry and undeniable leadership urged him to not just huddle with young men around the game, but the gospel. He helped found a successful college ministry called Plumline, home to the likes of Sho Baraka, Tadashi, and Lecrae. So it's safe to say that as a leader who leads leader, his life has touched millions through their main stage. And he's also known for building multi-ethnic communities with an emphasis on making disciples. So to call him an urban missionary to inner cities and abroad, that's a title so rightful. But we all must be mindful that even today will one day be the past. So who wants to join me in taking a blast into the future? You see, because I heard that the women could prophesy. And by prophesy, I'm not trying to be spooky. I'm saying I got a word for Lil Pookie, AKA Jamal. I want to tell him, son, this is the name that you should be called. And I know you're going to be athletic and tall, but beyond playing ball, you have the ability to teach the young soldiers how to stay in step. You know what? I salute you, you future colonel, you. And to the Dejas, Kelseys, and Michaelas of the world, I see a little Proverbs 31 in you, girl. Deja, did you know that the 4th leading cause of death in your people is diabetes? So with a scientific breakthrough, you could kill the killer and become the hero. And Michaela, you're gonna be like a mask magician. You're gonna be a mathematician. And to Deja, you're gonna be an expert at journalism and broadcast, inking deals with major television networks like, come, let's do TV together, on the basis that no good hero should remain hidden forever, saying things like, dear TV, the revolution will be televised.
Wow. Wow, you can do better than that. Wow. Not only is Shy an alum one time, she's an alum 2 times, she's an alum 3 times. She got her bachelor's and 2 masters from the University of Texas at Dallas. ShySpeaks, we are so proud of you. She came in, she said, I don't remember this breakfast. I said, we had it. She said, well, where was I? You were probably studying. You were learning, getting all that UTD knowledge. So thank you again, Shy. Thank you, that was awesome. So now I get to invite someone else who is awesome to the pulpit. Oh, that's not a prophecy. Don't get that one twisted. To the podium. Another one of our student leaders who happens to work in our office, so we're really proud of her. She's the bomb. Axum Taylor is going to introduce our speaker. And before she introduces the speaker, I just have to tell this really quick story. So we knew that we wanted to get, and I still call her Representative Giddings. I will always call her that because she will always be my representative. And so before, we knew we wanted to get her, and so we were trying different ways. But one of the things you probably don't know about her, and it's not in her bio, is that she is probably one of the greatest Black church ushers you ever want to meet. She ushers at our church every Sunday, and she's usually there at 8 o'clock, and I give her props for that, to deal with people and their spirituality that early in the morning. I don't know how she does it. But she is an usher, and if you know anything about the Black church and the ushers, who some may know about Ursher, is that they have the second hardest job in the church after the pastor. And so she ushers, and so the particular Sunday I kept looking for her and I hadn't seen her, and so I sing in the choir, and I was in the choir stand, and I was like, that Sunday I was like, I am going to find Representative Giddings if it's the last thing that I do. So I saw her come in and I watched her the whole service. I don't know what the preacher was talking about. It probably was, I don't know, but I watched her, and so she was on her way out the church, and so people were stopping me after church trying to get my attention, and I was like, I got to go. I got to go get Representative Giddings. So I had my choir roll. So you see this big Black man running down after Representative Giddings with this robe flying behind me. And I got her, and she was getting in her car. I said, wait, stop. I said, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you right now. And she was looking at me like, do I just get in the car and drive off real quick? Or do I listen? And I explained to her why I was chasing her in my robe. And she said, UTD? Oh, yeah. Okay, I got it. She told me what to do and who to talk to. And I was like, well, that was real easy. I did a whole lot, but it was real easy. So that also, it teaches me every week that not only does she have a heart for people and for service, but to usher and what she does outside of here really shows that she has a true servant heart. So I just wanted to say, before I got a chance to say, just thank you, Representative Giddings, because you will always be my representative and my church member. So, Axum.
Good morning, everyone. You all enjoying your breakfast? Yeah, okay. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Gregg. My name is Axum Taylor. I currently serve as your Student Success and Outreach Assistant, and so I will be introducing Representative Helen Giddings. So Helen Giddings is president of Multiplex Incorporated, a specialty concessions company which was founded in 1989. Previously, Giddings served as Vice President of Leadership Development at the Greater Dallas Chamber of Commerce and is an executive responsible for human resources for 11 states with Sears. Ms. Giddings served in the Texas House of Representatives for 26 years, and during her last year served as the Vice President Chair for the State Affairs Committee and a member of the House of Appropriations and the Calendars Committee. For 3 terms, she chaired the Business and Industry Committee, The Speaker of the House appointed her to the Texas Legislative Council Governing Board, the Supreme Court of Texas Permanent Judicial Commission for Children, Youth and Families, and the Joint Interim Committee to study Alzheimer's disease. Ms. Giddings also serves as the past chair of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus, and Ms. Giddings pioneered the funding to create the Academic Bridge program at the University of Texas at Dallas. Her civic awards are too numerous to list, but here are a few of her notable awards. The National Forum for Black Public Administrators Award, More Women Helping Women Award, the Ebony Magazine's 100+ Most Influential Black Americans, Outstanding Legislator Award from Mothers Against Violence, the Gifford K. Johnson Community Leadership Award from the University of Texas at Dallas. Ladies and gentlemen, Representative Helen Giddings.
Thank you so very much for that very generous introduction. And I must tell you, Arthur Gregg was telling you the truth. I looked up and this man was running behind me in this robe, long black robe that he sang in the choir was flying behind him. And I thought, what is going on? I didn't know whether I should get in my car and take off or what, except that I recognized him. It is so wonderful to be here with you this morning. And as I came up to this campus, I was so proud of the progress that has been made. I remember when this university was very small and we didn't have all of these wonderful buildings. And if I can be immodest, Walter, I take a little bit of pride in that. I served on appropriations and I helped get the money for a lot of those buildings. So. And of course, my school is the University of Texas at Arlington. But as I look into this audience and see all of you, I know more people here than if I go over there and speak. But I don't dare call all of these names of people, faculty, and staff members that I know because I wouldn't get to whatever remarks that I am here to make. I'm pleased to be here today to pay tribute to the life and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. Speaking to you really gave me an opportunity to pause and to do some serious reflection. Reflecting on the life of Martin Luther King Jr. has to be more than the parade. It has to be more than attending the gala. It has to be more than Helen's speech. It cannot be one and done. It has to be a time for us to reflect and to commit ourselves to doing what we can to create that better world for all humankind. MLK's courage was contagious, spread throughout the world. When someone in America stands up for freedom and justice in our country, someone in another country finds the courage to stand up, and then it continues to multiply. I want to invite you to go back in time to the mid-'60s. Most of you here, certainly the students, are not old enough to have lived in that period, but I think you can use your imagination. Imagine, if you will, an America, a Texas, where blacks were denied the right to vote, where blacks were denied the right to run for office. Imagine, if you will, a black citizen, Amos Smith, being pushed down the Dallas courthouse steps, beaten and threatened with death for trying to register to vote. Thurgood Marshall, at that time, was with the NAACP, and Thurgood went on, as you know, to become the first black to serve on the Supreme Court. Thurgood had to come to Dallas to smuggle Maceo out of town to keep him from being killed. It happened here in North Texas. Imagine, if you will, 3 people working for the cause of civil rights and human rights in Mississippi being murdered. Imagine blacks and browns being denied equal educational opportunities and being segregated in our public schools. Imagine blacks being able to only live in certain segregated neighborhoods. And imagine that the property deed restrictions forbid blacks from living in those neighborhoods. If you go down Central Expressway south, you will come to Forest Lane, and across there is Hamilton Park. The reason Hamilton Park is there today is because when African Americans attempted to buy homes in other areas, they were bombed, their homes were bombed. And so that development was where they wanted middle-class African Americans to live. So imagine being black and being able to look at clothes at Sanger Harris, that company is now Macy's, and to be able to buy clothes at Macy's and Neiman Marcus. By some convoluted system, you could buy the clothes, but you couldn't try them on. And if there was anything wrong, there was no return for any reason. Imagine blacks not being able to go to restaurants except through the back door and eating in the kitchen. Imagine the only time you saw a black or brown in a movie was in a role as a servant. Imagine there were no black quarterbacks in the NFL. Not because they didn't have the arm, and not because they didn't know how to throw that post pattern, not because they could not read the defense and the X's and O's, but simply because they were black. Imagine the NFL without Cam Newton, without Lamar Jackson, without Deshaun Watson, without Teddy Bridgewater, without Russell Wilson, without Dak Prescott, and the young man who is going to have Texas in the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes. Imagine that kind of an NFL. Imagine women subjected to domestic violence and the perpetrators not being held liable. Imagine people beating up their wives or their spouses and not being prosecuted. I served on the Dallas County Grand Jury even in the 80s, and we were not prosecuting people who beat up their wives. Imagine women being sexually harassed and having no recourse. Imagine an almost total lack of women and people of color in management positions in business. Imagine that only 1% of the student population in so-called mainstream universities were black. We could go on, but I think you get the picture. I wanted you to get the picture of the America that Martin set out to transform. That was the America that Martin Luther King confronted. That America offered little hope to women. That America offered little hope to boys and girls of color. That is the America that Martin Luther King sought to change. Now, everyone wants progress, but the motivator, I heard you say, Doctor, the motivator for progress is change, and change has a whole bunch of enemies. Many people did not like Dr. King. He was not a popular man. But this is what Dr. King said about being unpopular and being in challenging situations. This happens to be my favorite MLK quote. He said that the ultimate test in life is not where we stand in those moments of comfort, and those moments of convenience, but it's where we stand in those moments of challenge and those moments of controversy. When faced with issues, cowardice asks, is it safe? Expediency asks, is it politic? Vanity asks, is it popular? But conscience always asks the question, is it right? Is it the truth? There comes a time when a person must take a stand, he said, that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but you take it because you have decided that the ultimate question in life is not what happens to my job, not what happens to my prestige, not what happens to my popularity, but you take it because you have decided that when truth begins to die, it is that moment that we start to die. Dr. King was a minister, and as he liked to call himself, a preacher, whose very life, when you think about it, offers us a sermon. The night before he was assassinated, you heard he preached his last sermon. And he said, in effect, in that sermon, that I know my life is at risk, but I will not give up on my principles. I will not give up this fight for equality and freedom because of these threats against me. Because of his moral courage and because of his leadership, our country made incredible progress. Because of Dr. King's work, we all know he was here. He raised a little hell. He shook things up. We see the difference he made, but we still have miles to go. Looking back, certainly, we passed the Voting Rights Act, and people didn't have to know how many bubbles in a bar of soap to be able to vote. Now, you think that's improbable. That was what folks had to do to be able to vote. We don't have that poll tax anymore, but we have other ways of suppressing the vote that are far more subtle. I think about college campuses, and college students can choose to vote from their campuses, or they can choose to vote back home. But the choice is one that they can make. And in this country, in the last 2 years, there were college campuses where students were being told they absolutely could not vote. That's a way to suppress the vote. I was in Austin when we passed this terrible bill that says you have to have certain kinds of photo IDs to vote. You've got your student ID card. It's got your picture on it. You're in a state institution, but guess what? That's not a photo ID that is acceptable to vote. That's a way to suppress the vote. But guess what? If you have a concealed handgun license, you can use that ID. So now you tell me what sense that makes, and if that isn't a way to suppress the vote. Well, we have passed the Equal Pay Act, but we still have women who make 80 cents for every dollar that a man makes. And for African American women and women of color, it's even worse. Women are 51% of the population in this country. We're 29% of state legislators and 23% of the Congress. Now, everybody can now access institutions of higher learning, but affordability is an issue. We've just priced some folks out of the game. Students coming out of college now, it's common to have $40,000 in debt, $50,000 in debt, more than that in debt. And I think we can do better in this country. It has to be dismal. Coming out of college, getting a job as a teacher or a police officer or something like that. You have $75,000 or $80,000 in debt, and you're going to make $50,000 for a while. We have to do better. And then when we look at students, 9 out of 10 students who are the first in their families to attend college are dropping out. And that is why I am so proud of the Academic Bridge program. I'm so proud of Dean George Fair. I'm so proud of Sola Germea for the work that they have done with the Academic Bridge program. And I take bragging rights every time I talk about that program because we have demonstrated here on this campus that we can work with people and that they can be successful. They get out of college earlier than their peers, and they're more likely to graduate. So I'm delighted at the work that we have done there. Education, in general, we've legislated equality in public schools, but we can't legislate everything. Kids of color still underperform, not because of their ability, but because the system is unfair and unequal. Poor kids are more likely to be food insecure. It's kind of hard to study and learn when you're hungry. And then, if you haven't heard about it, right here in North Texas, there is lunch shaming. Kids as young as 4 years old get their lunch. They're hungry. They find these things that they want to eat. They put it on their tray. They get up to the cashier. The cashier discovers that they have no money in their lunch account. Kids' lunch taken, thrown in the trash. What kind of impression that leaves on the kid? I'm not as good as garbage? What that must do to your self-esteem. And you can imagine the shame and the bullying that goes on with that. It's something that I was able to do a little bit of work with in the Texas legislature, but not nearly enough. Women and people of color today are still highly underrepresented on boards and in corporate suites. The fact of the matter is that America can ill afford to use just a portion of its talents. We need everybody. Everybody can contribute, and we need those contributions to make this country the country that we want it to be. Martin Luther King Jr., John Lewis, and other civil rights leaders ignited a flame to begin the greatest transformation in this country since slavery. And that transformation, as we have just discussed, is not complete. A lot of progress has been made, to be certain, but just as certain, we have a long ways to go. Opportunity, equality, social justice has eluded so many hardworking Americans, and so many have been left behind. The torch has been passed to me, it has been passed to you. And so what are we going to do? How will we serve as change agents? How will we be the catalyst for change? Now, it's easy for us to say, hey, I know Martin Luther King. That man was a giant. I can't do what he did. Well, maybe not, but you can do something. You may not be able to do everything, but you can do something. And you cannot, I cannot refuse to do the something that I can do. It all starts with looking at that person in the mirror. If we want change in this country, that's where it starts. We can start by committing ourselves to be decent, to be civil, to being compassionate. Every one of us can do something to change the tone of this country. The disrespectful, ugly, cruel things that are being said and done. This country is still great, but we have not lived up to our promise. But we can take an oath, America, you will live up to your promise, and I will be a part of helping make that so. Now, Dr. King said, because many people he knew didn't think that they could do what he did because he was a giant. But he had this to say: everybody can be great. You have that on the back of your program, because everybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to have your subject and your verb match. You don't have to know Einstein's theory of relativity to serve. You don't have to know the second law of thermodynamics to serve. He said you only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love, and you can be that person to make a difference. Now, I know you hear all of these bad things that are being said, people saying women look like horses, and just the other day, Scully, the pilot who landed the aircraft on the Hudson when the motors went out, he wrote an op-ed for the New York Times. And he wrote it because Joe Biden occasionally stutters. And when Joe Biden was a kid, I think he had a very bad stuttering problem, but he's pretty much gotten over it. But somebody said something, a negative, about Biden stuttering. And it just so happens that Scully used to stutter too. And he knew the kind of bullying, the kind of shame. And he said when he sat in that classroom, when he was a 5th, 6th grader, and he was trying to say something, you know, his words just stuck. And he said he felt like everybody was looking at him and he could just feel the heat rising. So because he identified with that, he wrote that op-ed to say, this is wrong. What are we doing to those boys and girls out there who might have a speech impediment, who might be trying to get over it? This doesn't help the situation. And all of us can write an op-ed. So, it's not about Democrat or Republican. It's about the fact that we all have a voice. And if we want a better country, we're going to have to speak up. We know what Dr. King did in those moments of challenge. And this is certainly a moment of challenge. This is certainly a moment of difficulty for America. We are in a fight for the very soul of America. And you and I have a responsibility to pass to our children and our grandchildren a better America than we were born into. And I am optimistic that if we begin by looking at that person who is staring back at us in the mirror, that we can change the culture of this country. It starts with one person. So I hope we will each commit to that change, beginning with how we treat our fellow man. I was walking in New York probably 30 years ago, and I ran across some words that were inscribed in stone. And if everybody did nothing more than reflect on these words and just do the something that we could do, we would create a better world. And I want to share those words that I found in New York inscribed in stone. I had my checkbook with me and nothing else. I took out my pen and wrote it on the back of my checks. I believe that every right implies a responsibility, and that for every opportunity, every obligation, for every possession, we have a duty. I believe that the law was made for man, and not man for the law, that government is the servant of the people and not their masters. I believe that thrift is essential to well-ordered living, and that economy is a prime requisite of a sound financial structure, whether it be in government, in business, or in one's personal life. I believe that truth and justice are fundamental to an enduring social order. I believe in the sacredness of a promise and that a man or a woman's word should be as good as his or her bond. I believe that it is character, not wealth, not power, not position, that is of supreme worth. I believe that the rendering of useful service is the common duty of mankind, and that only in the purifying fire of sacrifice is selfishness consumed and the human soul set free. I believe in an all-wise and an all-loving God, named by whatever name, and that an individual's highest fulfillment and greatest happiness and widest usefulness will be found in living in harmony with his will. I believe that love is the greatest thing in the world and that it alone can overcome hate. I believe that right can and will triumph over wrong. I believe in the dignity of labor, whether it be by head or by hand. And I believe that this world owes no man or no woman a living, but I believe that this world owes every man and every woman an opportunity to make a living. I believe in the supreme worth of the individual and in his or her right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These are ideas, I think, that we can all benefit from. And now, I want to share with you a story that I'll close with. Somewhere in America, there was said to be an old man considered to be the smartest man in the world. Two young boys decided to test that. They decided that they would go to the forest and they would catch a bird. And they would challenge this old man to tell them whether this bird was alive or whether this bird was dead. If the old man said that the bird was dead, they would open their hands and let the bird fly free. If the old man said the bird was alive, they would crush the bird. So, in any case, the old man was going to be wrong. So they found this old man and they said to him, old man, we've heard that you're the wisest person in the world. We want to see if that's true. In our hands, we have this bird. And we want you to tell us, is this bird alive or is this bird dead? And in their hands, as you know, they have decided that if the old man said dead, they would open their hands, let the bird fly free. If the old man said the bird was alive, they would crush it. So they said, old man, is this bird alive or is this bird dead? And the old man said, my sons, it is in your hands. And so it's in our hands what America will be.
Awesome. Thank you. Representative Giddings, I just wanted to give you something. I stopped this morning. Thank you for sparing my life and not running over me. But thank you for allowing me to be here today. Thank you so much one more time for Representative Giddings. Dr. Fair will close us out.
Thank you, Representative Giddings. It's a pleasure to hear from you. I want to just share a little bit about what Helen Giddings has done for the University of Texas at Dallas. Back in 1999, 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago now, Helen was serving in the Texas Legislature and was working with Franklin Jennifer, our then president, to decide on something now she could get more funds for the University of Texas at Dallas. And one of the things that they came to me and said that what we would like to do is to get more students to come to UT Dallas from the Dallas Independent School District, from Lancaster, DeSoto, and Duncanville, which are the areas in which Helen Giddings was the representative. And so we put together a proposal and started the Academic Bridge Program, and we were funded from the 1999 legislature. Since that time, we've had over 800 students come to the University of Texas at Dallas from those school districts and some other surrounding school districts. And those folks that came are now, we have at least 2 doctors, okay, medical doctors. We have other major professionals. We have lawyers. We have teachers. We have other business professionals. And those folks have come to UT Dallas and have been supported by UT Dallas with the chief support of our provost at that time, Dr. Hobson Wildenthal, and the continued support of Dr. Ingle Musselman, our current provost. So she has made a difference in the lives of over 800 students that have come and been a part of the Academic Bridge Program. So I just wanted to share that with you to get you the sense of, after hearing her speak, to understand what she has done without any question. So I just wanted to let everybody know that this is not only a person who can tell us about it, but she actually does that and was very influential in doing that as far as the legislature is concerned. And so we continue here at UT Dallas in doing our little part to make the lives of the world a little bit better. So I'd like to thank some people that had some big part to play in what we were doing today, primarily from the Office of Diversity and Community Engagement. Bruce August, who has been instrumental in putting this together, and he's right back here. Our MC, Arthur Gregg, okay, who is the head of the Multicultural Center. And then the other persons that lead the diversity and community engagement, Lauren DeSillis, Raul Hinojosa, and Rosie Peterson, are all persons that have had a major thing. So thank you very much for spending this morning with us. It's been inspirational for me, and I continue to be inspired being here after 40-some years myself, so thank you very much. I'll turn it back over to Arthur.
Thank you, Dr. Fair. Thank you all for being here. Also, thank you to the rest of the ODCE staff. Thank you so much, the Multicultural Center, the Gender Center, Diversity Initiatives, Community Engagement. Thank you all for making this possible, and thank you all for being here this morning and continuing to celebrate Dr. King's dream. Without any further ado, we are done. I was told that the centerpieces on the table are up for grabs, no fighting, but they are up for grabs, and you can take the whole centerpiece. You don't have to just pull the flowers out. So thank you. We hope to see you at the same place, same time next year.